You're listening to First Paso. Because sometimes you simply need someone to help you take that first paso. Hello and welcome to First Paso, a show where we learn together how to take that first paso toward becoming the best versions of ourselves. My name is Candace Olushala, and today we have a special guest who is from Cameroon, and she actually is a founder and CEO of a consulting company, and I really want her to tell you guys a little bit about that, but her story is going to be impeccable to unpack. And so without further ado, please welcome my Afro sister, Mati Fombang. Hey, look at us. How are we doing, sis?
I cannot.
We had to bring you on with the African energy.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
It is well. How are you?
Not beautiful. I'm good. I am excited to be here with you on my couch.
Yes.
Comfortable. Ready to unpack some cool stuff with you.
Yes,
thank you for that awesome introduction. So like Candace said, my name is Maxi, and I am the founder and CEO of ETL Consulting. ETL stands for Equipped to Lead. It actually came up through career coaching the last, 5 years or so. And then it kind of just morphed into sales coaching, leadership, going into different organizations and helping just fine tune their sales processes, whether it's on the recruitment end, on the selection end, really giving that feedback. I still do a little bit of career coaching, a lot of branding yourself, marketing, whether it's on socials or LinkedIn, really just helping small businesses just get to this next step, those people that are not able to have resources. So that's kind of a little bit of what I do. I enjoy doing that. It's a lot of fun because no day is the same, right? So you're always in different situations. So it was a journey to get there. But yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yes, girl. That's a nice little summary of what you're doing. And I'm highly interested about all that, which means I might talk to you after this show about some of this stuff. But we're not here about me, girl. We here about you. So I'm actually really excited to hear your story. I've kind of have a little bit of an understanding, but I don't know the full thing. And so why don't you explain what your story is and what that season of transition was after you took whatever first paso you had to take to get there?
Yeah. That's such a big question. Even leading to today, I was just like, what am I going to talk about? I feel like just like a lot of us, my life has been just a lot of seasons of transitions. And God's been doing something very specific in my life in terms of why I keep going through certain transitions and just getting comfortable with being in the middle. I know you mentioned that a little bit earlier, but to just wrap it up in I wouldn't say a nice bow, but in a bow. Let's put it in a bow. Came to Miami, the USA from Cameroon when I was 17. So I went to Florida International University. Loved that university. Did my first two bachelor's there and then my master's there as well, which the master's is a good transition story. That was an interesting transition, and I'm so grateful that was part of my story, like coming to the US. So I'm the last of 5 kids. And so all 4 of my siblings, whenever they would go to, we call it primary school, but what's the word? I would say when it was time for university or college, they would go to the UK. But when it came to me, I had gone to an American school back home. So my education was a little bit different than my siblings. And so when I graduated from high school in Cameroon, I went to an American school. The next logical step was to come to America. If I was to go to the UK, it would be a little bit different just because of educational differences. And so I wanted to be by the beach. So it was either Miami or California. And then at that time, my oldest sister lived in Atlanta. So I wanted to be close to family, but not so close that I was breathing down their necks and they were breathing down my neck. So that's how I ended up in Miami. And just encountered so many different things that have shaped who I am now. So I'm in a spot where while I'm still in transition, I'm so grateful for that time. So I'm not sure how like where you want me to hop in, Candace, in terms of like my story, but so go to school. I'm going to school for to become a doctor. I realized in my first year, I'm like, organic chemistry is not for me. You better take me out. Take me out right now.
That is so funny because OChem, I feel like I was that weirdo that loved OChem, and then I took advanced OChem, and that's why I became a pharmacist. I feel like pharmacists really like weird things like that. Everyone else is like, "Are you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you?" Most people don't like OChem.
No. That it makes no sense. It's no. I like biology. I love bio. Like I will right a biology book. See, that's usually the difference between us. Those that like don't like biology, or those that like biology don't.
It's true. I was like, we could do away with bio. We don't.
I love bio. I get bio. When you start putting science and math, like, why are we doing all of that? Why?
And I'm like, science and math, yes. I love it.
No. So that was the first indicator of okay. So that was the first opposition, I guess, as a younger person. And then as I started to like go to lab and all that stuff, I was like, I'm not. This is gonna sound so shallow, but like, I'm not dressing up every day to be in a lab coat for the rest of my life. So, I just didn't have a passion for it anymore. Like, I did want to be a doctor, and the passion behind wanting to be a doctor is a need that God has put in my heart of, just loving on people and getting them to that, like getting them better, getting them closer to how He sees them. And so what I noticed in the past few years is I do have a gift of seeing people. At least God reveals me for like who He wants them to be. I don't know how to really verbalize that, but it was misplaced because my mom was sick when I was younger. And so during that time of taking care of her, I had vowed that I wanted to be a doctor to figure out what was wrong with her. And while that was admirable as a little girl, when I like grew up a little bit, it was just a misplaced, misplaced of what God has put in my heart. So I shifted that and I decided to go for health services administration because I felt at that time we didn't have a shortage of doctors, but the facilities were just not running very well. So I was like, I want to be that person back there that's helping the hospitals and all that stuff run well. During that time, and I'm going to focus more on my career than like the personal life because I think that had a lot of transitions in there. During that time, I got a job on campus because as an international student at the time, you have to get a job on campus. That's the only way you can work. And I walked into our career services office and I was like, I need a job. And the lady at the front desk was like, do you want to work here? And I was like, oh, okay. And so then we had an interview and then I was in. Turned out she had cats. I had a cat. And that was like a way of like connecting. And that job started the catalyst up until now that is ETL consulting and even more. So I'm so grateful for the ins and outs of that job. And so during that time while I was there, like in a lot of businesses, a lot of the higher ups or my boss at the time, and the boss's boss, they were not very, what's the word? How do we do this? They were not really for the employees, is what I would say. And so there was a lot of drama in that workplace and a lot of tears and a lot of people getting held back by somebody else, by like a boss. And I was a victim of that as well. So going through that, I started to get a passion for human resources, but like actually like resourcing humans. No, like if you're in a workplace that is not healthy, here are the steps that you need to do. So then I did a second bachelor's in human resources and I loved that. And that put me on a different path in recruitment and more of career coaching and all of that stuff. I left, so I had worked at the university, and please let me know if none of this is making sense or in order, because it's a lot. But that job at the university was about 5 years, and I worked in very different facets, and I was definitely really proud of the work I did. Graduated, I left the university work to go work in corporate. I did that for about 9 months, and I was like, this is not for me. I did HR and corporate, and then my university called me back and was like, we have a role for a recruiter in our graduate admissions, and we think you'd be perfect for it. And I was like, oh no, I'm not a salesperson. Like, miss me with that. That's not me. And they're like, no. Like, here is out. Like, you have a background in career coaching, and we just find that we want someone with a personal approach that's able to bring the perspective from career coaching. And I was like, okay, I'll hear you out. So we go to the interview, and I'm still like, I don't know why I would do this, but I'm still so stubborn. And I'm just like, I want you to know I'm not a salesperson. So if you have quotas, if you have all that stuff, I want that. And they're like, no, don't worry about that stuff. So get the job. Ends up being, again, just everything is just such a catalyst for a story that I think God continues to write. But so became a recruiter there and just worked my way up to leadership. And it was another situation where there's a little toxicity going on. And so I'm always, at least in my professional life, being around just that unhealthy environment, and it just continued to stir in a passion for, like, we spend so much time. We spend 9 hours or 8 hours of our days and work, right? But yet there's so little resources for that, whether it's for the bosses or it's for the employees. And I'm happy in 2024, like, things are definitely a lot bigger or better, I should say. But it just continued to stir my heart for not just like administration and operations and sales and all of that stuff, but it's like doing it through a lens of like a personal connection, right? So how utilizing who you are to be the better version in your work. And that, I started to sharpen those skills as like I was managing people and all of that stuff. And then it led to like ETL eventually. So all of that's happening. And we get to a point early last year where I was just kind of like done with the organization, and I was ready for my next thing, and I was praying to God, and a next role came, and I interviewed for it, and I was like, oh my God, it's using all of my skills. I won this role. Get into the role. And it is not pretty at all. Like, literally, it's an answered prayer. The moment I got the offer, like, I could feel the Holy Spirit, and like, it was such an answered prayer, and it was such a God thing. And it is such a God thing. But I get into the role, and immediately it's just like chaos. So I got into that role April of last year. Immediately at that time, they sent me to Dallas to do like an event. But I was met with that unhealthy environment of just being with a boss it wasn't very healthy. The organization itself started to deteriorate. Fast forward, there's just things that are happening within the organization, like our paychecks are getting delayed and all of those things. And I'm praying to God, and I'm like, God, like, this cannot be my answered prayer. Like, you did not bring me here for this. Like, what is going on? And I would hear God say, I need you to stay. I need you to stay. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, this is not good for me, and it was just like, no, keep staying. And so every time that I would want to apply for a different job, it was just like, I would just feel a piece of staying. So I was staying in a little bit of chaos, a lot bit of chaos for the last like year. Up until maybe July or so, we'd gone through like 3 rounds of layoffs. I got promoted through that to be head of talent acquisition, which is all great. It's an entrepreneurship organization. I love the work that I was able to do and that we were able to do in that job. July, things are just very uncertain at this point. We're not even sure the organization is going to make it. Pray to God, and God is like, I need you to stay. Like, I need you to stay. I wake up August 6th in the morning. I hop on Zoom with my CFO, and I have like an agenda for what we need to talk about. And she's just like, before you go into your agenda, and in my head, I'm like, oh my God, she's leaving. And she's like, no, the entire organization is ceasing operations today. And I was like, immediately, I felt, it was the weirdest thing. I felt peace, but that chaos, it's like they're existing together at the same time. And so I'm sitting there and like, I don't even cry, none of that. I'm just like, okay. Especially me and my consulting, I'm like, from an organization standpoint, I can see why a decision like this is made. But there's employee lives that are at stake here. And so I was just like, God, like, why would you let me stay? Like, it made sense when I got promoted, right? Because I'm like, yeah, but why would you let me stay through all of this for this to happen right now? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, this is, and we can talk about it in another thing, but I searched so much through my life for stability. So a job is stable, right? It's what I've always been good at. It's like I've excelled in all my, like, that was something I could count on. So all of this is happening that Tuesday and shattering and all of that stuff. And like, I don't even think I'd heard God that day. Like, I was just like, what is going on? And I don't know if I was just not in the space to hear God, but I know that I felt peace. And so this last year, since I got that job, it's so funny and God is hilarious. God has been like planting seeds of like moving to Dallas. So this is all in Miami. And God has been planting seeds of moving to Dallas. And I've been so against it. Like, I was like, I would never leave my beach. I would never do all of that stuff. But it's quite funny because if not for this role, I don't think I'd be in Dallas right now. And so when that happened, my parents from Cameroon are here. It's almost like 10 years that I haven't seen them. So like it's sad on one end because you don't want your parents to see you as a grown up just losing your job. Like, you want to go to them and be like, hey, let me take you out to dinner. Let me do this for you.
Especially African parents.
Listen.
That sent you to the land of plenty.
My goodness.
Hey, what are they doing? Hey, why do you waste our plane tickets? You owe us a whole flight. A whole flight. You owe us because we come here. You can't even make me rice. What is happening?
Not make me rice.
Can't even make me a pot of rice. You don't have a job. We had to Uber. We had to Uber. Let's go back home. They're going back to Cameroon. Hey.
Hey. Thank God my oldest sister lives here. My brother lives there. So she has a house. And so they're staying there. Praise God. Praise God. Because imagine. Like,
I'm done. Y'all Africans, you already know. You already know the struggle. And some of y'all Koreans also know the struggle because it's kind of similar. Okay? Oh, my word. Oh, girl.
But that was, I'm in it right now, but that was such a beautiful blessing because, and here's the reason why. So fifth of five or last of five siblings, siblings left when I was like 13. Mom got sick very early, so I'm at home alone taking care of her. At that time, my dad worked in a different country. So all of those things force you to grow up. And what I had realized is I had taken on resentment for my siblings and my family, really just in general. My mom for being sick as a younger person, my dad for not being there, even though he was there, but not really. My siblings for just going to school. But like as a little kid, you're like, none of y'all were there. And I remember a specific moment, my sister who lives now in Tanzania, she's our middle child, and she'd come to see me maybe 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And we'd gone out. She had said something that I can't even remember today, but it was enough to just unearth all of that stuff. And I just remember crying and being upset at her and just going like, y'all, you all left me and all of that stuff. So all to say, like, there's trauma that I was holding on, at least in regards to my family. When you think about my journey in Miami, even though that was also like God knew that I had to be there because that's where I came back to Christ. I found a great church community. Like love Miami. Like, I would not be who I am if not for that place, for sure, or for what God did through Miami and my church. But if you notice, like, when I moved to America, I said I wanted to be close to family, but not that close. So I always had this, like, that was the way of dealing with my trauma of, like, I wanted to keep y'all over there, and not be too close enough for you to hurt me again. And these are all things that I've learned in all these years. And so my sister's so gracious that she just helped me, and she went back to my older sister. She's like, I don't know what Mattie's holding in her, but she's holding a lot of things, so we need to get it out. Don't do it. So anyway, so that week that all of this fell apart, God is so funny because I had all of them. My siblings, except for one person. So my sister from Tanzania was here visiting. My mom and dad, they were there to hold me through a time that I couldn't hold myself. And that was the first time I'd had that since ever. So it was like all of the resentment, if I ever even had any, like all of those times with them was so healing. And it's like, God is so intentional that even in the chaos of like a job ending, like he knew that I would need my mom and dad there because I've gone through an abusive relationship. I've gone through so many things on my own, and I've held that from my family, and from people. A lot of people around me don't know, except you're very, very closely. They don't know like the ins and outs of like my life. But to have a space where I could just laugh with my family, oh my goodness, Candace, that week was so healing. So healing. And it continues to give me like motivation to keep going forward. So that's getting me up until now. So what happened in that week is I saw my friends after almost 10 years. Came to Dallas to visit them. God is like, you need to get an apartment right now. I'm like, God, I know.
He be doing that. He be doing that, girl.
I'm like, you need, and then I had been texting with like an apartment locator in Dallas. This person called me that Friday that I'm there. It's like, we have 3 showings today. I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm here for another week. Please leave me alone. Like, just, it's okay. So whatever. Get in the car. We go. We find the apartment that I ended up settling in now that I'm in. So Saturday is going by and I can just hear God like, you have to move on this. You have to move on this. I'm going to need you to move on it. And I remember Saturday with my eyes closed and this, I was like this. Submit application. Because I didn't want to, but I knew. I knew. And it's like throughout this last year, God had been softening my heart towards Dallas. Dallas is a beautiful place. I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy that I followed God here. But it's like, I don't know, but it's almost like I just had to be in that space for me to listen to him to say, yes, go. Like, it's time for you to leave Miami. It's time for you to leave all the pain that you keep carrying with you as a badge of honor or whatever. I don't know why you're carrying it, but I need you to leave everything that you think you are and walk into what I want you to be and what I'm making you to be. And that's so good. This transition that I'm in is, I'm not panicked. And I know I've asked God for different tests that this was the right move, and he'd answer them because he always does. And there's that piece again of just like, this is where I'm supposed to be, but I'm not where I need to be. Like, I'm getting clients with like my consulting and all, but like, that's all like different work that I was not ready to do right this second, And I had been bargaining with God. I was like, oh God, yeah, I'll think about moving to Dallas in October. Oh God, I'll think about taking the plunge with ETL then. Oh God, like all of this stuff. And he's just been, thank God for his grace. But then I think it just got to a point where he's like, I need you to move for you to become who I'm sharpening you into. I'm going to need you to move. So that's how I got there.
Okay, wow. I have questions. Because I I resonate a lot with this story of even having to shift somewhere that you literally had zero plans of going to, being no heart desire for.
Yeah.
And yet it's like Abba God, like he shakes and stirs up where we're comfortable as a means to like get us going
Yeah.
into these new spaces. And since you are actively living out this transition today, how you've only been in Dallas for a few weeks now, then?
This is my second week.
Okay, not even a few. Okay, a couple. A couple of weeks. Wow. Um how are you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually processing now? Like being in this new city, being in a new apartment, trying to navigate being somewhat close to family still, it's decent enough to give some room for people to kind of be them. But it's like you went in this like whirlwind. You up, move, go very rapidly without that time to really sit and process leaving Miami, leaving your friends and loved ones back there. Even like explaining like, hey, I'm up and moving, all those things. Like, how are you processing all of that right now?
Yeah. You highlighted pretty much a lot of the things that are going on. I think I will continue to process like you mentioned, everything just happened so fast. Just that week was crazy, and then just from there everything just snowballed and like hacking up an entire apartment. But let me tell you, God's grace, because I was able to get my security deposit back because he provided somebody to move it. Like
Amen.
literally, like Tuesday, I found out the thing with work. Wednesday, I bumped into somebody in the elevator that are like, "Hey, like, do you have a 2-bedroom? Because I need to." Like, and I was like, "Oh, let's go." And then Friday, this apartment was a thing. So God's funny. So anyway, a lot of people didn't find out until like social media. My very, very closest, the day that I knew was happening, I think it was like the following Monday of whenever I submitted that application, and I texted them. And Candace, like every single person, like if I probably need to do this for myself, but I need to get their first text messages back to me after I said what's going on. Every single person was like, "God's in this. I'm so happy for you." And I was like, how can you say that? Like when it verbatim, people were like, my friends were not even in circle. Same thing, just like, God is in this. I'm excited for you.
Wow.
And they created like, and this all answers the question of hand processing, but they created a cushion and a nice send off from Miami, like a nice departation or whatever that word is, because they just created a safety place of like, it's okay. It's okay that this is happening. It's okay that you have to go, because that was something that I was fighting with myself of like, oh, these are my people. This is my place. Like I had gotten an apartment in Miami that was another God dream. And I was like, but God had told me something about this apartment. We can't be kind to me. And my church and like how involved I am in my church and all that stuff. And so the way that they came around me, even in just those text messages, started to help with this transition. I really needed. I know, and I didn't verbalize it to anyone, but God did, and He used them to just give me that cushion from people around me to say that I know that this is chaos. I know that everything is getting turned upside down, but it's okay. And I'm in this, and I needed that. I really did. And so moving here, I was driving every day that I drive to run an errand. I'm just like, God, what am I doing now? Like, I'll make a joke in my car and I'll be like, why am I down the street? So I think there's an element of like, it's still settling in. Today I finally like unpacked and did my closet and like, so like the little acts for me is in little actions of trying to set down roots. Whether it's connecting with people in the startup world here, because I was really connected back in Miami. So now I'm forging new connections, whether it's just taking a walk on the trail that I have right next to my house, doing intentional things with God to be like, there's been seasons in my life where I've been disobedient and I'm like, I don't want to do this, God. Like, I'm doing it. But in this season, it's like, if you're telling me that this is a new home, then I got to invest in it. And that's been good for me. That's been good for me to not push back on the process. Now, don't get me wrong, girl. Like, yesterday I was putting on my clothes and I broke down crying in my closet. And it wasn't even anything. Don't do it. It wasn't even anything that I was crying about. You know, like, it wasn't like, oh, I saw a dress and I was like, oh, I want, you know, it wasn't like that. It was just like,
right.
Right. I just broke down, like just on the floor in my closet, just crying. And it allowing myself to have those little moments because it's a grieving thing, right? Where I'm grieving. And it may not, and the way that I think everyone grieves is different. It's a weird tension of like, and I was just talking about this morning about it, feeling like, let me go out and get another job. And then feel of like, no, deposit more into ETL. Like, let God bring the clients to you, you know? And it's actually really funny because a week before I was moving here, an older client reached out to me who lives in Dallas, and they were like, hey, I want us to do something again. I was like, you know what? I'm moving to Dallas, so when I get there, let's see if we can do something together. But it's just, I don't know. It's learning to sit through that tension that I've been fighting away from my entire life. This tension of chaos and stability, mountains and valleys. I've been fighting that my entire life. And I have gone like transition on transition on transition in things that I remember when I was younger, and I would confide in like mentors I have, and you would break them and they would say, how do you smile every day? Like, how? And I don't know. I don't know. So I don't have like an exact equation for what is going on right now. I just know that God is holding me. In the moments that I need to cry, I let myself. But the beautiful part of it, and I don't always like to like spin things, but there is beauty in where I'm at now, is I have been working since I can remember. And I had told God that I needed a break. Of course, I didn't want it to be like but. So there's an enjoyment of the rest while continuing to work on something that I'm extremely passionate about. In the meantime, I found a joy in not fighting like life's mountains and valleys anymore. There's a pastor that I'm going to the church now, Pastor Robert Murdew. The first Sunday that I was here is actually so funny. But we're talking about mountains and valleys. And he said this illustration, you look at your heartbeat. And he's like, you know how your heartbeat does that? See, mountains and valleys. And he's like, what happens when it's like this? And he's like, you're dead. And he was like, yeah, yeah. And that hit me so much because I've been praying to God forever. I was like, God, like, I just want to enjoy for a very long time. Like, I don't want to come back down really fast. I want to just stay up there. But that is not real. That is not life. That is not the blessing of this world that God has allowed us to experience. We could be angels singing to him every day. But he said, no, you, Candace, I pick you to be down there. You, Matthew, I pick you to be down there. And so the cadence and the waves of life is something that I'm finding joy with, like falling in love with. So yes, I wake up some days and some days are poop. And then there's some days where I wake up like ready to take it on and allowing myself grace for those ebbs and flows, if that makes sense.
Yeah. First off, shout out to Pastor Robert Madu.
Listen,
I love that man.
That's your brother-in-law.
He, for real though, like this dude, he is such a great pastor.
Got a bump.
And funny enough, my pastor here in California, Pastor Ron Sidney, he is actually preaching right now a whole series on mountains and valleys. Like that's all he's focused on right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a thing right now. I don't know what Holy Spirit is doing, but he making sure we know about these hills and valleys. Okay. But I mean, that's such a great point to make as far as being in a transition period, whether you realize you were going to need to make it or not, especially in the abrupt way that it happened for you, which was very similar to how I ended up leaving Kentucky to come out here to California. It's like such a quick turnaround. Got out here to like pray to confirm, and he was like, yeah, you're like coming here in like a couple weeks. You need to pack up everything, sell whatever you need to do, but you need to be over here, you know, and like not really getting all the time to process. Similar response from people that were like, girl, you always Cali was always you, we were just waiting for the Lord to tell you about it because we all knew. And I'm like, dang, I've been trying to avoid Cali since forever. You know, like, you know, it's interesting how in that chaotic shift and then being even just in the beginning of the transition, and it's like your mind and your emotions are having their own experiences. Like your mind might be like, got this, and your heart's like like, and you're like, what's happening? I have no idea, right? Y'all are not on the same page. Y'all are going through stuff, and yet somewhere in your spirit there's peace.
Yeah.
Right? Like that up and down, and then peace on blanketing that. I think Pastor Madu makes a really good point in that, and even some of the stuff my Pastor Sidney's been saying, the idea that you would have like we see peace as this flat line, like everything should be calm, everything should be steady, and yet God's like, no, I have peace that surpasses your understanding to guard your thoughts and your emotions in Christ Jesus. Like the up and down is part of the experience, but it's you recognizing that I can blanket the roller coaster in peace to assure you that you're where you need to be. It doesn't have to be everything's going right. It doesn't have to be everything is going the way that I envisioned. It doesn't have to be everything is lining up perfectly all the way through this transition. We're just having a great time. But you already said before, even before you you moved to Dallas and you were going through your chaotic experience at work, your human self wants to flee, and yet here is peace coming to cover you and say it's okay to be in the chaos. It's okay that this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's like the internal peace is the calm. It's not all the external stuff, it's the internal. That's where that chill factor, because I don't know how far into this I'm gonna have to go find the sermon that he was preaching on about that heartbeat. But you know that the heart does have different types of beats depending on what's going on with your heart, right? So sometimes it has way too many hills and valleys than it's supposed to, right? Where you feel like, please just let me flatline. Like, I can't, right? Like, there are, okay. There's the regular, what we call sinus rhythm. You know about this, right? So, and those hills and valleys are different heights. They're different widths.
Yeah.
And they have seasons of, kind of a steady line, but you go right back into that mountain, you go right back into that valley, and they feel different. But that's actually the norm for your heart. That's actually the constant. That's how you know it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
If it's too chaotic, you need to have a question. And if it's too calm, you also have a question. But when it's that balance of like, life is hills and valleys, but do you know that there's an internal, like, your system is not freaked out that your heart is normally beating the way it's supposed to be, up and down, up and down. It's actually happy that it's doing that. So like, how come we don't do that in our day to day? I'm on the revelation right now. How come we don't have this understanding that just because the transition is chaotic or it's not going as planned, that something is either wrong, or we made the wrong move, or God's not in this, or it's all demons, or like, sometimes that is actually, that's it. That is the normal rhythm of the life that you're in right now. And are you at peace with the fact that this is normal? It might be a new normal. It might not be the way that things were hilling and valleying in a previous season of your life, in a previous transition of your life, but it doesn't mean that in this particular season it's wrong, because the sustaining factor that lets you know is the peace.
My goodness.
That's the part that it assures you that these hills and valleys are for you, and for your good, for something you can't see, which is fine. You're allowed to not see that. I'm sitting in that right now. Like, it's okay.
Wow. It's okay.
It's actually okay.
It's so simple. It's so simple, but it's just okay. Wow. That's
yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna need to rewatch this and listen again.
Girl, me too. Hey, I'm gonna have to also rewind. Okay, I was like, I needed that today. Like, remembering that sometimes the too quiet is a problem, and sometimes the way too chaotic is a problem. But it's that mix of life's a little chaotic, it's a little up, it's a little down. Sometimes there's like a strong up and a strong down. But that's, I'm where I need to be. I'm at peace. I'm okay. And this is hard in let me put it this way, because you know, you and I, we are followers of Jesus, right?
Well,
And I don't know how people who don't follow Jesus, and I know some people that watch my pod, they don't. I don't know what that looks like on that side.
yeah.
However, um, trying trying to piece together this, it's becoming newer, I would say, but the conversation about mental health, which
Yeah.
I'm a huge advocate for, given, I've had my own series of different types and levels of traumas. I think it's very important that we think through and process those things.
Yeah.
However, I'm just going to say it the way I'm thinking it. We have to, I believe, recognize that that piece that you're talking about
Mhm.
is often affected by our anxiety. Like, we don't know how to discern that piece is trying to get your attention, that you're okay, because everything to us is a freak out scenario. Like,
Mhm.
we haven't reached a level of calm just in general to be sensitive to
Go. Yeah.
peace
Yes.
being present. Like, peace
Mhm.
could actively be right there, and you're like,
Yep. Yep.
oh my gosh, like the world's coming to an end, and peace is like, I'm right here.
Right here.
I've,
I'm right
I've been
here.
here the whole time. It's okay. And we make decisions based off of the anxieties and the like freakouts and the what ifs, and then this person's commentary and that person's commentary,
More.
and peace is like trying so hard to just rein you in and tell you you're okay. Like,
Animal.
this is fine. You don't have to make it all make sense. It doesn't all have to be laid out in a perfect map for you on how this is
Yeah.
going to go. So I need you to like bring yourself to a calm so you can tell that I've been here, letting you know
Yeah.
you're actually
Okay.
where you need to be and you're okay.
Mm-hmm. I I think that's such an important call out, and like now my brain's going crazy on biology because I'm thinking about like the body and the different like parts and just. But anyway, one of the things that I continue to work at is, and I think it's everywhere now, but in terms of mental health, but like regulating your emotions, right? How do we keep that center? How do we keep our body still? Because sometimes our anxiety, some people get a stomach ache, some people like eyes get blurry, some people are shaking, some people like shut down. How do you help your body not and your mind not get into that overdrive? And you made such a good call out, and I definitely had to learn that because growing up, I was too used to anxiety. I was
Mm,
used to always being anxious that I didn't even know that I had anxiety. That I don't even like to say that. Sorry, Jesus. I was experiencing moments of anxiety. I don't hold that. I don't hold
right,
that.
right, right.
Um, but it's through like my journey and all of these things happening when things will happen, like, and just freak out and all of that stuff. And you're so right in that if you leave your mind and your body in that space, peace is not there. Like peace is there, but you will not see peace, right?
Yeah.
until you learn to really calm yourself down. And I do think that those are all tools that I'm even using in this season. Unfortunately, like I'm not able to see my therapist, but like for people that are able to have the conversation with somebody, whether it's someone close to you, I like having a therapist. I recommend everybody needs to because they're objective and all that stuff. But there's so many tools that she's taught me on, like practical tools that when I know, because one of the first things that I had to do was figure out when is anxiety happening. If I'm so oblivious to anxiety happening in my body, how do I feel it? And I was like, oh, I think I get it in my stomach. And I think like my toes, like and then, like there's little things that I started to notice when I was in moments of anxiety, right? And so when I recognize that now, I have tools that I use sometimes if it gets too overwhelming to just bring my body down. And all of that, all you're doing to your body is saying it's okay. It's okay that all of this is happening, but we're good. Like it's all okay, you know. And it's so the body is just so fascinating. Like when you like look at the body, it's just I'm in love with it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go into like into medicine and all of that stuff. And if I could be a neuroscientist, I probably would. But I love all things the brain, all things the body, because it just tells you so much about yourself. And for me, for the longest time, you know, I know some listeners may not have faith, but my anchor is in God. Had been trying to get me to pay attention to my body so much in so many different ways. And I just wasn't. I just wasn't until these seasons, probably this last year, of just this stuff happening with my job over and over again. You got to figure something out. You can't stay in a whole year of like anxiety like that. You know, you have to figure something out. And so I was being forced to sit there with God and go, okay, you're telling me to be here. I'm feeling all sorts of ways. I'm scared about all hands on Monday. What do I do to get there?
Yeah.
And I do believe that God was helping me to get to this moment. Why did he need it? Did he need me for the company to shut down? I don't know yet. And, you know, we always know those things in retrospective and all that stuff. But he needed to do something in me through all of that. Maybe it was the fact that my job was the stability in my life. And maybe he needed to be like, remind me, like, I'm your stability, right? Maybe it's, you know, just to, I don't know. And I don't want to sit here into the maybe, like, because there's not even, whatever. It's not even that important. But all I know is that all those little mini heartbreaks with my job were helping me to get here, to be okay here. Am I fully okay? No. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a dork about it. But the other side of me is just like, I'm 32 now. I've been blessed to accomplish a lot in my time. Even though I don't always look on my journey like that. I have people who, like, especially young people, come up to me and they're like, how did you get out? I'm like, bro, talk to Jesus, because I don't know how I got here. Okay. So, but
I'm weak. Sometimes that is the answer. I'm like, you know, I really wish I could help you.
No, because I didn't plan any of this. I didn't plan any of my, especially like professional life. I didn't plan any of that stuff. But it's helping. It was a perfect equation for how incredible I am in what I do, especially at ETL. It's actually insane. And like even going further with it, because I have like visions of God that God has given me about what it's supposed to look like, really. And like these are just stepping stones to get there. I don't even know where I was going with that, but like I could sit here and be in despair and say, my community was ripped from me. Everything I know was taken away from me. My job was taken away from me. My livelihood, like my favorite grocery store, whatever. I can say all of these things. Dude, I had to part with so many clothes.
Not the wardrobe, Jesus. That's the wardrobe. Oh, not my favorite jacket, Jesus.
Am I tired?
No. Girl, the grief. Clothe me, Lord. Just
no. I literally told him. I said, You making me part with all of you, Lord? We gonna replace with something better. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, I could do all of that. I could, and yes, there are moments where I do feel that, like, dang, girl, like you have a lot going on right now. Like, just like I feel those. But on the other side, there's that little excitement in me that is like, I don't want to say reinvent myself, but like, I don't know. I'm starting new. I'm making new connections, which is daunting in its own way. But there's an excitement of like, God is cooking. I mean, he done cooked. He has cooked because he has already said the word. But like,
come on, Holy Ghost seasonings. Come on. Come on.
He got seasoning.
He uses seasonings. Taste and see. Hey, that the Lord. Hey,
listen.
It's good. Hallelujah. Hey. That's right. Come on, cook it up, Jesus. Come on, what we eating today?
What we eating?
Come on. Come on.
So like that's like where I'm at. I've never been. Yes, I think I had to heal and what is it? But like renounce words or agreement of like victimhood over my life, because there was certainly a time in my life where I was like, why do these things keep happening to me? Why me? Like, I'm a good person. I don't deserve this. There's people that are out there, like, sorry if you do. Like, I used to have these conversations of like, why me? And at some point, I had received a lie that like I was not good because bad things were happening to me. Tell me how the devil's not happy with that. Like, And it's like, no. And like, I would get in situations where I would have to stand with my whole body and go, wait, no. My heart is still pure. I love people so much. Like, I am good. Like, no. And it's like renouncing those lies over the years, and especially this year. There's so many things that were coming at me when I moved my job, because I went to like a startup area. And as most people know, startups are not, nothing is the same in a startup, which I love. But I had let the stability of university work. And so when that stuff started going on, I was like, you have that voice that's like, you made a bad decision. Why did you do this? You're stupid. And like just these negative things. And then peace would just say, stay. You're good. Stay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So God's still writing this part of my story. I'm excited for the day that we look back and we go, okay. So that's why I had to do that now. I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for that. But right now I'm trying to fall in love with creating with God. Because something that got lost, particularly in my life, is the fact that I am a creative. And I say that with, like, I'm one of those people that not only was I smart in school, but I like piano, and I taught myself all these things. Sports, anything that I had put my mind to, I was good at. Yes. But that also caused, that's a whole other conversation. But I had lost, like, the fact that I am creative. And it's like, now I get to create my life with the knowledge of God, like, not the time that I was away from him when I was in my 20s or like my early 20s. No, now I have knowledge of him and his presence, and now I get to create with him. And if you don't have faith, it's the same. It's still very similar. You have a chance to create. And I've seen so many stories. I have been through too many things where I thought it was the end of the world. And it ended up being a catalyst for the best thing.
Come on.
So why can't this be it? Why can't this scenario be it? You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's where I'm at.
That's so good. That's so good. Like, why not?
Why not?
Why not? Why can't this be? Again, I don't have the vantage point to be able to know how to interpret this little snippet, this sliver of understanding that I have right now, and try to expand it into something I don't know is coming. Like I said, you did say we're creatives, and we create narratives all the time. We create. We always create, and we don't always use our creativity for the right things in the right ways. But we create stuff, and if that creates anxiety, it creates worry, it creates irritation and anger and frustration. Like, we often create ourselves into a frenzy that we don't have to. We actually have the decision to choose to create something else that allows more peace. It invites more calm. It invites more openness to curiosity and possibility.
Yeah.
And we don't have to play victim. We don't have to. We actually have the decision to move in the direction of, what's the word? Of the for my good and the good of other people. I don't get it right now. I'm going to choose to believe that this is both for my good and the good for other people that will be impacted through me. And I'm going to choose to rest in that while I just create with what I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I can really work off of, unless Abba says something different.
Right. And it's funny because when, like I said, I didn't tell people, like, not a lot of people know why this happened, but I did post that I was like, and when anyone asked me, I'm not going to lie about it. I'm like, yeah, I will. And that last week, I got flooding messages of people saying, you're inspiring me right now. I've been feeling a tug to go somewhere, and I've been so hesitant and just afraid. And like, just do it. Thank you. And I was like, oh.
Didn't know I was leading the way. Happy for all of you.
Happy for all of you. Listen. But there's just two ways that you can choose to live in transition. Again, it doesn't mean that the days are good. It doesn't even mean that the hours are good. Like, I can be laughing with you right now, and in 30 minutes, just be bawling. But guess what? It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay, because, like, that's just, like, again, like, falling in love with the ebbs and flows in life, the hills and valleys.
Yes.
For me, it's just been game changer for my mindset, because when I do feel that, I'm like, oh no, I know it's coming up. Like, I know it's coming up, because it's life. Like, that's the promise that life is giving you. That when you go down, you will go up. Yes, you'll go back down, but you also go up. So when you're down, you already know with an assurance you're about to go up.
Yeah.
Now, how long is that going to take? Well, that's a different conversation.
Okay.
And we've been talking about it. How, what do we do in that middle? Like, what does that middle look like when you're waiting? But I would, like, at least for me, I encourage myself, is it is going to go up, but also you don't need to wait for it to go up. There's fun down here. There's beautiful things down here. There's a garden down here. There's good things down here. There's probably a spring somewhere down here, you know?
Come on.
But it gonna go up. Don't worry, it's coming. Like, that is assured. I just need to take care of where I'm at down here. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's good. That's good. I do have a question. I have a couple questions. One, does ETL stand for something specific?
Equipped to leap.
Ooh. I like that.
Thank you.
I mean, you're living that right now. You were equipped to leap from Miami to Dallas. So
listen.
Hey, you definitely did that. And then just so like people get an understanding, because I think when people see, they might see you right now and it's like, oh, she was thriving in Miami, and then she's in Dallas and she has this company and she's training people and she's doing all these amazing things. She's got it going on. Like, she's just springing up. She just sprung up, right? But I know good and well this was not an overnight experience. I mean, even just what you said, from moving here from Cameroon at 17 and you're 32 now, that's almost half of your time that you've been living, right?
Yeah.
Like, that you've been in the States. So from your perspective, well, how long would you say it was, like, from the time that you got here in the States to now, that you feel like you're what other people might consider thriving? Or do you feel like maybe it was when you started college and you started like getting your different degrees? But I really, even for myself, and I'll explain why after you answer, but I want people to get a visual of the timeline you're actively working with that has gotten you to where ETL is like doing stuff and getting clientele, and you're talking to people and navigating meetings and whatever. How long would you say that's taken to get you to this actual point?
Jeez. ETL has been born for 2021, so 3 years. Or what's math? Yes, 3 years. That I've been working, that I was not able to fully pour into it because obviously, like, I had full-time roles when I was working in it. I would say, number one, it depends on who. If you're 17 and you just came to America, people in Africa are like, oh my God, you made it. Oh my God, send me this. Oh my God, send me that. Oh my God, you have all the money. I was like, no, bro. Struggle sitting here. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Stop doing that to us. Don't do that to people. They don't have them. They just got here. Give them time. They'll let you know when they have their money. Calm down. Everybody calm down. Right.
So from that perspective, for sure, there's those. I would say that I felt like I've always had that. And to answer the question, is like, there's no one time where someone or people can look and say you made it. It always depends on where they're at, and what they want to compare in their life to another person's life. So there are times where I got my degrees and feel like, oh my God. And then my master, and people like, oh my God. And then, my leadership roles, and people like, oh my God. And my speaking engagements, and people like, oh my God. Girl. And then, in the last job, oh my God, you're head of talent acquisition. Oh my God. And so it's always been there. And I just think it depends on, maybe if you want to clarify the question, but I just think it depends on the lens that someone is looking at another person. What I will say is, I have never been one to carry my pain, obviously. So you'll see me, I will hang out with you, we will jive and all that stuff. I don't know who says jive anymore, but we will have fun.
Yeah.
But like, I won't be walking around like Eeyore. Like, I've never been that person. So and that's also been part of my sadness, is that people have always assumed that I was okay. People like, what's that thing that they say, just because you carry it well doesn't mean whatever, but like, people have always, like, I am now 14 years in this country, still having an immigration battle. That is just a constant transition that is hovering over my life.
Jeez.
So when I speak from a place of like, I can choose to be sad, or I can choose to believe the best is yet to come, I have reasons on reasons, like reasons on reasons on reasons on reasons to be on the floor. But so whenever I encounter anyone that says any of this, I receive it. Keep speaking gladly. You're saying that I made it. I receive that. I'm gonna use that as my ammunition to keep moving forward. The older I've gotten and more comfortable, I guess, in like sharing myself with people around, I'll let people in of like, and just sometimes I will check people and be like, what you see is not always. And I'm very vocal on my social media. I'm like, I'm not putting like, hey, I'm crying in my closet, like but like, you'll know, like, there are times when I let people in because I'm like, you cannot believe what you see. Like, especially in this day and age, like, ask yourself, look at your social media. Do you post when you're down? So why do you assume that the other person is not living life the way that you are, right? In terms of that, like, they're not having the sad moment. You can't assume things about people. I'm a huge advocate for curiosity, just even in anything in life.
Yeah.
But just being curious, and something that I learned to do differently, and I've been doing it in the last 3 years, is when someone asked me how I was, I answer that honestly. I don't say I'm fine anymore. If you catch me on a bad day and you unleash the how are you about to get something. Now, depending on our relationship will depend on what is about to be unleashed on you. But if I'm having a bad day, I've gotten comfortable with, no, I'm not good today. But it's good. And then be like, do you want to talk about it now or right then? But thank you for asking. And that was like a shift for me. Because there's also a part of me that, I grew up a perfectionist. And I'm still recovering from that. I mean, I'm healed, thank you, Jesus. But like, continue to recover that. But part of that is being like, I was okay that people thought that like all of these balance were happening in my life, because that's part of that perfectionist persona per se, right? So if you want to think that I'm doing good, I'm gonna let you. And as I continue to grow, like in the last probably 4 years or so, as my heart has continued to be like stirred with God and just, just growing and realizing certain things, that's where I became comfortable with it's okay. It's okay that you lose friends in this season. It's okay that you can't take people into some season. It's okay that this is happening today. It's okay. And it's okay for you not to be perfect, because that's not real. No human is perfect. So I got comfortable with saying I'm not okay. Like if somebody asked me, and now I'm in a spot where, again, depending on discernment, if somebody is really talking to me like, oh my God, you made it. And I'm like right now, I want to sit down and have a conversation with them and be like, oh God, I use my curiosity. I'll be like, oh, what is it that made you like feel that like thank you. Like I'm curious. Like, what is it? Like, what do you think? Show me what you're seeing. And they'd be like, oh, I saw you on Instagram. I saw you in Dallas, and I saw you going for a walk. And then just peeling back the layers of people and just be like, yes, and all this other stuff is happening too. Like both can exist at the same time too. So now I've gotten comfortable with having those conversations. I think people will always look and say, oh, heck, I fall victim to that. And that's why I'm strict with social media. Yeah. And if I'm having like the day that the work stuff happened, I did not go on social media. Like that entire week, I did not go on social media. I knew exactly what would happen if I had looked at someone else's life when I was in down in the depths. Even though I know that that's not real, but I knew what it would do. So I think also it's just like helping people around me, educating people that like to do that work in your mind of not believing the things that you see, having curiosity about a person, even if they're on the top. Ask them, how did you get to the top? And then they can tell you, hey, I'm not at the top right now, but I appreciate that you're seeing this and I receive for myself, right? I think curiosity is important. So I think those people always exist because that's part of human nature, in essence, and especially in our world right now. I just try to protect myself from it. Like meaning if somebody does say something when I'm going through some, like right now, if someone was like, you're killing life, I have mechanisms to protect my heart because I know that what you're saying is not full truth right now. At least I'm not believing that truth right now. So sometimes it's okay to just buy and wave, yes. Sometimes I'll have a conversation and correct it. And sometimes, it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question at all.
No, I actually like how you answered that question, because you made a great point that people forget, is that, again, life has mountains, plural, and valleys, plural. So this whole like you made it conversation is really based on a ideology that everything is just on the upside of the mountain, and it's just asking like how much closer to the top, and then you get to the top and you realize it's just like a leveled off part. Like this is what people are thinking in their brain. Like it's like a leveled off part, and it's like, oh, there's actually more mountain. Okay, well, like keep going, and then you've made it again. And I don't know, it's like they feel like you're going to mountain climb yourself to the moon or something until you die. I really don't understand it.
I don't understand it.
That sounds stressful. Because then people also see like they also see like, okay, you've made it, and then if something happens, they're like, you fell off the cliff. Like, it's the most drastic thing, which, sometimes that is exactly what happens. Some people really fall off and they land in the valley, and that's life. That happens. But it doesn't, those experiences aren't defining you.
No.
Right? Like, let's say, for example, because I'll relate it to why I asked this question as well. Because let's say you had been you're on this academic journey, you're getting all these different degrees, you start working in your early to mid 20s in this like business career coaching consultation arena, and now you hit your late 20s, early 30s, and you've created this company, this business, and it's thriving compared to whatever people consider thriving, right? That's a very subjective term, right? So here you are thriving, and all of a sudden, let's say in 7 years, God forbid, none of this happens, just for example. Consultation business is done, and you're doing something totally different, and you're starting from ground zero because it's a new industry, it's a new field. You've not really done it before. You have background in certain things that could help leverage how you handle this new arena. But it almost looks like you've started over and you've wasted all of your education. You've wasted all this money. You've wasted all this time, and you're starting over. It is so jolting to be looked at in society by how they assess what a mountain or a valley is in your life. Yeah. Like how they want to define you by that. And I say that being someone who has 3 degrees. Like I have a bachelor's of science in biochemistry, and I have a doctorate of pharmacy, and I have a master's in public health. And that was you've made it. Everyone's like, you've made it. You reached your bachelor's. You made it. You made it into one of the top pharmacy schools in the country. Wow. And then you've made it. You made it in one of the top public health programs in the country. Wow. And then you're a life coach now? You're a public speaker? Wait, you're You're not doing that on the side? Like you're a content creator? Like you create stuff? Like you have a podcast? So you're not like pharmacist by day, podcaster by night, dispensing meds in the morning, doing YouTube at night. Like this is just what you do. And it's almost like they take, because again, they're from the outside. You can't really fault people for how they're trying to make sense of what they're seeing in someone else's life. But it can be very jolting if you listen to commentary, even from people that you love and respect.
Yeah.
You start to learn how people have been viewing your life that you care about. And when something shifts in a way that in their mind doesn't make sense, they now start questioning you. They start questioning your thought process. Right. A lot of the "are you sure" start coming out in conversations. Do you have the fallback plan to go back? And I think especially from an immigrant perspective, or for me, a child of immigrant perspective, these conversations get really difficult. Yeah. Because of the story, the immigrant story. Yeah. And trying to do better than where you came, right? But what does better look like? How do you assess better? What if you guys made more money than me, but I'm able to live with peace and a lack of anxiety that you guys literally drove your whole lives through? Is that better? Or were you only looking at finances? Or maybe I am not using my degrees at all, and you used all of your degrees, and I'm experiencing joy everlasting. You were constantly angry and sad and depressed and complaining. Oh. Are you still counting that as an aspect of better? That I'm actually doing something that I'm waking up every day and I'm smiling, or like I have the capacity to choose to smile and look at the positive of a thing versus being like, oh, I can't believe. Is that better? So like it's even, these things are getting me to reassess even how I was bamboozled into looking at how someone is thriving and how someone is not thriving, and who's on the up and up and who's on the down and down, and what does that mean? Because at the end of the day, doing your absolute best to pour into any season of life that is before you, in the moment that it is before you, is really all we have. That we don't have anything else to operate with. And hindsight is 2020. Yeah. At least it should be. I don't know if everyone takes hindsight for the opportunity it affords us. Wow. But it can be 2020 if we try to look into it as we grow and hopefully heal our minds and our hearts from the experiences that have embedded lies into our lives. Yeah. I can see that you're able to say, like, I did a lot of work, and you guys might say I'm thriving. Oh, within 3 years, her business is booming. Well, I'm really trying to understand your definition of booming. Yeah. Because one, it wasn't like I just up and started a business. I have years behind of wrestling through personal life, wrestling through professional life, wrestling through understanding where I am, what I'm doing, how to leverage what I'm learning in the moments that I'm learning them for whatever is coming up in the future. And that wasn't at the start of this company. It was even a decade or more, most of my life before, that led me to this particular point. So to even compare and contrast that to whatever people see as this arrival place in life, I think the best piece that we can have, which you seem to have really leaned into, is that the positive commentary and the negative commentary don't do anything for how the rhythm of your life's heartbeat goes. The commentary is just what it is. People can be cheering you on, thinking you on this mountain when you've been in the valley. Then people will be cheering you on when you're in the valley, or like they're like naysaying your valley. At least they see it as a valley, and you're like, I'm actually on the mountaintop right now.
Right,
like,
right.
I'm broke as a Coke, and I'm on a mountaintop right now. Like, I left. That was what that for me was one of the best realizations in leaving pharmacy. People were like, oh, you left all that money. I was like, I left depression. Dude, I left morals that were being compromised. I left HIPAA violations that no one was addressing. Like, I left a whole bunch of stuff. I am counting my penties right now, and I am so happy. You can't pay me to go back there. No. That does not mean I'm not going to make pharmacy money in the future. That does not mean that. Okay? What that means is my peace is intact.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. I have joy in my spirit. Yes, I have my down days and my grieving days of, man, I really miss my patients, and I miss being able to make that type of impact in the healthcare sector in this way. But this is the season I'm in. And why are all these external factors having to be placed into what dictates a valley or a mountain? It's just it's the experience that I'm in, and I'm doing my best to soak up everything I can learn, because I'm sure there's something in the future that whatever lessons I can learn in this space will benefit me and someone else. That's my full driving force. I just want to soak it all up. And whatever it is for the future, I hope that I did my best to take in all those lessons so I can disperse them out to people, because I'm not going to be here forever. I'm really not. Okay? So I don't want to just be in life, and life is moving me, and I'm not understanding what's going on, and I'm not utilizing hindsight's powerful testimony of what was going on and what I can be learning from that and how I can be moving forward. I don't want to waste any of that. I just want to do my best to take what's in front of me, present it to Abba, and ask him, hey, I'm giving you all the things that I can see, and I know you can see more than me. And your word says that you do things, you provide bread for your children. You don't give us things that we don't need. So I'm really just going to trust that you're going to guide me. Even if I can't like physically sense you moving me around, I'm going to trust that in however day-to-days are happening, you're giving me insights. You're giving me direction. You're leading someone I don't know from a hill of beans my way to help me in situation. Like, I'm going to trust that you're doing what you're doing. And I can't lean on everybody else's thoughts on that, whether they have a positive thought or not. Okay. There's a lot of positive thoughts on things that aren't positive, and there's a lot of negativity on things that are very much positive. But it's all about your view, your sight.
It's all about your
how
view.
You see a thing, right? So
you said something that just proves your amount of discernment and self-awareness. You said, and let me know if my mic cuts off. I think my AirPods may be on their way out, but I have another one. You I forget how you phrased it, but basically it was the acknowledgement that you knew that you were in a different season. I think that is such a big key.
Yeah.
Because I think the lie of life and like vocations such as being a doctor, pharmacist, lawyer, things of that stuff is that it's all steady. Like we've talked about, right? We're an all one big season. But you said something that I think we miss a lot is that it's a new season. So now I have to look what is this season? Is it mango season? Is it strawberry season? Is it like what season am I in? And that's where like I go back to like that curiosity, not just with the outside world, but within yourself. I just love the way that you just phrased that because it was first a self-awareness that, hey, I'm in a different season right now. And understanding that with different season comes different tools or different ways of doing things. And it sounds like from what you're saying, you're like, okay, I'm a podcaster now. I'm leaning into these things. I'm not grasping. I don't like that word, but I'm using all of these different tools. I don't know what the next season will be, but I know that where I'm at now is not where I was. So I must be in a different season. So I have to look at it with a different perspective.
Right.
So it starts with acknowledging that.
Right. And nothing is, to me, I genuinely believe that nothing is wasted unless you choose for it to be.
Ooh.
I genuinely believe that. People assume that because I'm not actively seeing patients, that I'm not utilizing every piece of information that was taught to me in pharmacy school. I use that stuff every day. I'm a life coach. How do you think I'm able to talk to people? Like, right. I know how to ask certain questions because of that training that I had. Yeah. I'm able to utilize my public health training to look at different angles of a thing and see how we can find solutions to people's questions. Like, it's none of it is wasted to me. I would do it again if it would help me on my trajectory of whatever purpose God is laying out for me to accomplish while I still have breath in my lungs. I am okay with that. Is it jolting? Yes. Is it startling? A lot of the time. However, remembering that I have chosen. Not everyone decides this, but I have chosen probably since, I think I've always had it, but I think my ability to put words on it was when I actually was a missionary in Ecuador for a year. Like I took a year off from college to be a missionary and serve people. I love that experience allowed me to have the verbiage to say to God, I am forever a missionary. So wherever you send me, however that looks like, I have lacked and I've had plenty. I've eaten and I have starved. Like I've done those things and I can literally do all things through Christ who gives me the strength to do them. So you let me know, hey, if you're the one who says, hey, the pharmacy world, we're done. You're not practicing in the way that you've been doing it. You are, it's very much giving, you're a fisherman, you're going to be a fisher of men. He did not waste He did not waste it. He did not waste their training on how to put something on a hook and how to reel the line and how to wait patiently and be very sensitive with how you draw the fish. All of that understanding was utilized in the training on how to speak to people, be patient enough to let them bite the hook. It might take some people a while, and some people they see a hook, they ready to grab it. Okay, like some people they swim all around the hook. You trying so hard, they're not trying to look at the hook. They don't want to be on the hook. They don't have time for your hook. And fishermen understood that. That's what it gives me. It's like I've been called and he's not wasting what he told me to do. He sent me into pharmacy. I didn't want to do pharmacy. I was going to be a physician. Didn't really want to be a physician, but I just thought, the Nigerian way. That's what you do. You go to be go be an MD. And then he said, nope, you're going to go do pharmacy. And I was like, okay, doing pharmacy. And I did that for the season. Did I have an idea that I was going to be a practicing pharmacist for 45 plus years and retire in my late 60s? Of course. It's like you put all this money into this and you put all this effort and you love what you're doing and all this stuff. Yeah, you think this is what's going to happen. And for Abba to be like, you've only been practicing for a year and some change, it's time to get out. Well, I just got here. And he was like, yeah, and that's all you needed. You saw what you needed to see. You learned what I needed you to learn. And now we're moving on somewhere else. And I'm going, okay, like, that's the agreement that I have. I have the agreement that you say move. I'm going to learn on the fly what that means, what that looks like. And I just trust that you see something I don't. And I'm cool with that. Not everyone's cool with that.
No, it's hard.
It is hard.
It's hard.
That's why I commend you.
Sorry,
I commend you for
wanting to be in that conversation. But it's hard. It's definitely very hard. But like, Candace, I just want to affirm you in this moment because I don't know when this was. I don't know, like a year ago, whatever. But the fact that we're doing this right now, I needed to do this.
So good.
I didn't even want to talk about what's going on. Like I went in saying, I don't want to talk about it right now. But God, I need you to do your will in this conversation. Like we're going to talk about other things. And it was just like, oh, so I needed to talk to you. This is your pharmacy right now. Like you're working with me in this moment. And I'm seeing like everything that you're talking about of what God has done in your life, how it's coming out right now in this conversation. So I want to affirm you and they also just thank you as well for being into what God wants to do through you in your life. It's not easy to walk away from something like that. That is a pretty sure thing, and by the world standards, like, you know, it's prestigious. It's amazing. It's freaking incredible, girl. Not easy to step away from that. Just a year and then change into practicing. But like, your spirit is gleaning into what God is doing, and in that process, this miracle is happening right now with this conversation in me. Like, it's not by chance at all that this is happening. I know for a fact. So he wanted to affirm you.
Thank you, and likewise. I mean, I can hear a lot of my story and yours as far as just like, you know, you've done all this education and you've worked with different companies. You've worked with the demise of companies. You've worked with the thrive of companies. You've experienced all these things, and for life to pick you up from your, you know, comfort day to day and place you somewhere where you're having to relearn networks and navigate people and this new home, and really like even the symbolism of getting rid of things that you loved, you know, having to sell your clothes and get rid of furniture and give a space that was considered home to your mind, body, and soul, and just finding a new place and trying to make it work and adjust that. Like, I really commend you for being literally 2 weeks into this, because it is not easy. A lot of people would consider that a crazy move. Why would you do that without planning, right? Like, you just up and left and got a place. Like, you didn't do all the calculations for financing, and you got up, you went, right? But Abba will bless you in that.
Amen.
And when I say bless, I am not saying you just gonna run up to the top of the mountain and do cartwheels up there till the day you transition. Like, that's not what I mean. Okay, because I know, especially with African culture, when we say bless, it usually means riches and riches on top of riches and mansions.
You can go plop on top of there, and it's just all be there.
And it's just all there. That's not what I mean. I mean that Abba will reward you in the relationship that he builds with you, and the relationship that he builds with others through you. Wow. He's going to work with that, and people will see why your faith and your courage was what they needed. Like, had you not made that move, I wouldn't have encountered this. I wouldn't have had this resource. I wouldn't have heard this word. Like, Abba's timing is so perfect. Mm-hmm. And that's part of those things. It's like, why am I in this holding space? He's giving me peace here. I'm like, oh, why am I still here? A lot of it is like, I'm holding you because I'm preparing a place for you over here. Yeah. And I'm working out all the timing and the positioning of people. And I have to, I'm working with free will. I can't just drag people over here and yank them over here. Like, I'm trying to guide and lead scenarios. Wow. So that way he's a chef, right? He's a farmer. Mm-hmm. He knows how to make sure everything is right where it needs to be. Yeah. So then he can place you in the ground at the right time, or he can place you in the pot at the right time. If he does too early, that meal is messed up. If he does it too late, it's also messed up. So he's like, I'm working all these things, and if you just hold right here, I am an on-time God because I get to operate out of the context of time. So I have way more flexibility than you ever could without me. Yeah. Let me do what I'm doing, and let the peace that I'm putting inside of you be the assurance that what you're doing is exactly what you need to be doing. So I genuinely commend you, because you don't hear a lot of people, especially 30, 32, jumping up and going somewhere they've never been and never wanted to be. It wasn't like, oh, I'm sure I'm going to make it to Nashville to be a superstar one day. Like, no. You were like, I'm good in Miami. I'm going to be here forever and ever and ever and ever. Yeah. And he takes you where you're like, I don't have a beach here. That was not in the contract. Me, I'm over here. I'm like, I didn't want a beach. I was good in the mountains of Kentucky. I liked hiking and all this stuff. Like, I was like, I don't want to be around palm trees. That's weird. I didn't want them. And here, there's a palm tree everywhere. There's a beach 20 minutes from my house. I'm like, it's still weird to me, but I'm here. But
you're here.
I'm here. But you're there. You will. And that's the thing. So, I guess my last question for you would be, if you had 3 pieces of advice for someone who may be in a similar transition as you, maybe they're like there's like a couple weeks into it, and they're still kind of, mentally, emotionally having great days, and then kind of shell-shock days and emotional days, and just trying to navigate the newness of a thing so abruptly. What advice would you share with them?
Mom. The first one is, just gonna laugh, just breathe. Funny enough, like years ago, I got a heartbeat and a tattoo that says "just breathe" on here. Can't see it anymore. Only I know that it exists, I guess. And so when the sermon of the hills and valleys of the heartbeat was up, I was like, "Why you funny?" Usually before. But for that person, in just breathe. There's so much power in our breath. What it does to your body when you breathe in, hold it, breathe out. You just do that 3 times and watch what it does to your body, and be intentional about breathing. When things are like chaotic or abrupt, or maybe things are taking away from you, it's so easy to be looking at external things and like what's going on, or what can I fix, or where can I be, and all of that stuff. But I also believe it's an invitation for you to grow internally, and breathing, remembering to breathe and making that be your focus instead of everything happening around can be so... I think it's still very important. Just to sit there, do whatever you need to do. I actually have timers, and I have different mechanisms to get me to stop and breathe, whether it's my watch, whether it's my phone. I have an app. And during this time, I've been very intentional about these are the moments where I want to breathe. So that would be one, is just breathe in the physical, but also in what's going on with you. Like what we were saying earlier about it's okay. Just breathe. Like you have a breath. I don't know. Like breathing for me is so profound that I want to prescribe it to everybody. I know we all do it, but not a lot of people, and I'm still working on it, know how to really efficiently breathe, which is so funny because it's what we do to stay alive, but we're not always doing it well. So that'd be number one, is just breathe in your body, and also knowing in your heart and your mind, just breathe through what's going on. Give yourself that peace of breath. That is you consoling yourself in that moment, is allowing your breath to console you. Number two, I would say get around people you love. People that you love. For me, like I mentioned, it's such a blessing to be with family. And my friends are just a FaceTime away. Like I just had a breakfast date the other day or yesterday over FaceTime. Get around people that speak life into you. Get around people that, you know, you trust. You don't have to tell anybody everything. But the core people that your nervous system feels safe around, I think it's so important to have that around you during that time. And if you don't have people around you, I think being intentional about like taking care of yourself. So whether it's working out, I try to take walks every morning. All of those little things I think are so important. But if you can, get around people that you know are for you, people that on the days that you can't hold yourself, they're there. And then my last thing is just get excited about what's happening. It's very hard to when everything seemingly is falling apart. But the beautiful part about life is those things can exist together. Things can't be seemingly falling apart, and you can be excited because you know why? It's okay to be excited. It's also okay on the other end. So get excited about what you have a chance to build. Get excited about, you know, like maybe even looking back on your journey from a different lens, getting excited about a different perspective, get excited about this new place that you're in, whether it's mentally, physically, just get curious and excited about it. Because when we get excited about something, when we try to, well, we have a confirmation or an affirmation in us that the best is yet to come. It gives us ammunition to take care of the garden that we're now in and not just sit in it and sit on the flowers or whatever. It gives us ammunition to just kind of like take care of our area. So being intentional about getting excited about your chance to create, because it may not seem like it now, and trust me, I'm preaching to myself or talking to myself, but it's a gift of life, you know, to be able to go through the mountains and the valleys and to be where you're at now, even though it doesn't seem like it. It's, I don't know. It's a gift of life. It's like a present from life. Life is not the like only good when you have trillions and trillions of dollars. Because believe it, all of those people with trillions of dollars, they have, you know, they have valleys too. It's in different places, but they have valleys too. But I don't know. I would say get curious with the possibility of what can happen. One of the things that I've learned about transitions, and when I tell you, like, hated transitions, like, it's just, but every time I'm in a transition, I was reminded that, like, you just leveled up. Whether or not you see it, you did I play video games, but you just leveled up. That's what happened when you level up. You get into a space you've never been before. That is a good thing, even though it feels not so good. I hear that. But it's a space you've never been before. So you have a chance to create. You have a chance to maybe redefine who you are. You have a chance to, like, so yeah, anyway, I'm talking too much about that. But just breathe for sure. Get around people that you love. Take care of your body, because that's what you have. When everything's taken away from you, you just have this beautiful thing that maybe you've been neglecting. Like, if you're like me, I've definitely been neglecting my body in terms of, like, not working out the way that I wanted to, and, like, making sure that I'm out with nature and taking those walks has been so good for me. Because it's like you're giving your body a hug. You're doing things for you. So I don't know, it just gives you more ammunition to get through the day. And then the last thing would be get excited about creating. Like, we're all creatives, like we mentioned. This is a good thing. You're in transition. That means you've leveled up. What is that level? We gonna see. We will see. But all I know is that I'm excited about this new level. I'm excited for this new level for the person that's listening as well. And you have an opportunity to create something new. And what's that thing? Can't wait for the world to find out.
That's so good. Girl, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and having this conversation with me. Is there a way that people can follow you or reach out to you if they have questions for you about what you do, or maybe more advice on your transition based on where they're at?
Yeah. I love always talking to people. It's one of my fun things to do. But on Instagram, it's pretty easy because then you DM Matty, 2 I's Fombang. So I don't know if you want me to spell that out, but MattiiFombang, Matty Fombang. I'm also on LinkedIn as well. So if you want to follow that journey, both on mine and then my company, you can also go to equip2leap.com, and you can reach out to me there. You can fill out a form and reach out to me. But anyway, you can probably find me and reach out, and I would love to have conversations. I think we need to do more of this. It's that curiosity thing that we all lose sometimes. And so reach out.
Thank you, girl. Thank you so much. And thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Such a thriving, exciting conversation. And I know I needed it. And I hope that it really benefited you. If there are any topics, if there are people that you are wanting to hear from on this show, if you yourself want to be on the show, you can reach out to me. You can DM me. You can go on my website. But on social media, I'm at Candace Olushla or at First Paso. Either or. I would love to hear from you guys. And of course, there's multiple ways to support, which are found in the show notes below. But of course, always sharing, liking, and subscribing to this show helps me help you get content that you need. So I would love to keep serving you in this way. And thank you guys for even just being on this journey with me. You know that this is my season of transition, one of which is figuring out how to put video podcasting content together. And it's been really exciting. And I'm sure that there's a lot more that you're going to watch me fumble through and figure out. And I'm excited to showcase what that might look like, because life is not 100% pretty, but it is 100% worth it. So with that being said, you guys, take care, be safe, God bless, and I love you guys. Bye.